Before you get started with the video today, let's talk about how to use these videos. There's 8 parts to what we're going to do. First of all, we're going to create some tables. We're going to create relationships between those tables. We're going to create some forms with multiple table sources, our invoice. We're going to format that invoice so it prints well. We're going to add some more controls. We're going to create a query to sort the data for finding overdue invoices. Finally, we're going to create a report. And then the application will be finalized, removing all menus and creating a navigation form. And so you'll be done with a nice application that looks like this. It's a program that would run a small business that we're going to use. This one's called Crystal Pools. It keeps track of our customers, it keeps track of our invoices, it keeps track of our products that we're selling, and it keeps track of who sells them to us, and also creates reports so that we can see who has not paid our bills. The teacher here is me, Shad David Sluter. I work as a teacher in Tolleson Union High School District at Westview High School. You can use these lessons to follow along. So 8 videos, do exactly as the videos show, duplicating on your own screen. And finally, when you're done, instead of printing the application, we're simply going to grade it as a standalone program. Now let's get going. Hey, welcome back to Access 2013 using Crystal Pools as the assignment example. A few more items and then we're done. We've added the paid check mark and the date of payment. Now, it wouldn't be a complete lesson unless you learned something about queries in Access or in any database. That's the heart of what a database does. It sorts data. And so what we want to do is create a query that will find the people that have not paid their bills and those that are over 30 days beyond the date of payment or the date of the invoice. And so it'll be the overdue payments that we're looking for. Well, let's go into our invoice table first and add some information. Let's say we've got 3 people that have paid and the rest of them that haven't. So let's give them a date when they were paid. And I'll just make up some numbers. But these people that have not paid, let's say their date of invoice when they bought the items was several months ahead of time. So let's go back to July and June. Let's go to May sometime and check a date. And on this one down here, let's check this one to be sometime in July 14th is good. And so this payment up here, the first one for customer number 5 is overdue, and customer number 152, whoever that is also overdue. So we'll have 2 invoices that are overdue. You may have more information in your database because you've entered more records, but I'll have at least 2 to show. So let's save this and close it. Now, the idea of making a query. And go to Create. And now we're going to create a query from a query wizard. We'll just choose the simple query wizard to start with. And it's going to ask us a series of questions. What are we looking for? What are the fields we're interested in? So we're going to invoice. I'm interested in the invoice ID, the customer ID, the date, and if it's been paid. Now, since we're eventually going to use this in a report, we'd also like to include the customer table information, such as the last name, first name of the person. Let's click Next. Now, we're going to use the detailed view, which will show all of our records. And instead of invoice query, we'll call this overdue invoices. And click Finish. Now, right now it's not sorting anything. It's just showing us all of the customers, those that don't even have invoices yet. So we have some modifications to do. Let's go to the design view. And down here below, we have all of these items that we've just included in our query. So some things from the invoice table and a few from the customer table. Now remember, we're interested in if the invoice has been paid or not. So let's go down to the criteria. We're going to say invoice paid. We're going to type in the word false. Press tab. So now let's go see what that did to our invoices. Let's close this and reopen it. Invoice. And so now you see only 3 items that appear here. They've not been paid. Now we're going to narrow it even further. Let's go back into Design View, and we're going to show only those that are overdue. This requires some formulas, and there's lots to learn about formulas, but right now we'll just learn one of them. Let's go to Date of Invoice. We're interested in the difference between the date today and the date of the invoice. If it's been more than 30 days, then we'll consider it overdue and we'll make it appear on this form. So I'm going to start typing here in the row called Criteria. First of all, there's a keyword, now. If I type the word now, it shows me what it means, the current time and date. So I'm going to use a parentheses to show that that's now. Now if I take now and I subtract the date of the invoice, so let's start typing date of, and sure enough there's another defined field that appears. That's one of our records. Double click that and it shows me the formatting is in brackets. So if now subtracting the date of this is greater than 30, so that means there's a difference of more than 30 days, then we'll include it in our criteria to show in the query. Press enter. Let's save the work, and now let's go look at the datasheet view. So the 2 invoices that I backdated are now showing in the overdue table. This is not really a table, this is a query, so it's showing information from the invoice table and the customer table, and based on this date we show who's overdue. Now I'd like to add a report. If you'd like to run a report to show who's overdue, it's simply go to the Create button and we're going to go to the report area. There's different ways to create reports. We're going to use the report wizard. The report wizard is a lot like a form. It's just meant to be printed. The formatting is much easier to work with. So we'll use the query overdue notices and add all of the fields. Let's click Next. Now it says, how would you like to sort this? Well, I'm going to use by names. So I'd like the report to show first name, last name. So the preview shows we'll group it by names instead of invoice numbers. Let's click Next. Do we want to do any groupings? Like you could summarize. You could like add up the number of people that are overdue. Let's just leave it simply without any grouping. Sorting. I don't have to sort, so I'll just leave it as unsorted. Click Next. There's different ways you can set the layout. It's a personal preference. We'll use the first one called Stepped. Instead of calling it Customer Table, we'll call this thing Overdue Report. And let's click Finish. There's the overdue report. It shows the same 2 customers and their overdue notices. However, you see that there is some field problems. These are too small. So we're going to do a little bit of editing in the design view. Let's shorten up the first name field so we have some room to work with. Let's move the invoice ID over. Notice I'm moving column headers up at the top, page headers, and then I'm going to change the internal fields as well. Customer ID needs to be a little wider so we can read the whole thing. Now the invoice number was actually not showing up. Let's expand that as well. Date of invoice. Let's save the changes. Right clicking, and then let's go to the report view. And so now we have a report that shows the overdues for our company. Just to make sure it's working, let's add a new item. Let's close this Let's go to the invoice form, double click it. Let's add a new invoice. Down here at the bottom, I'll click a new record. Let's pick a customer. Let's pick an invoice date that's way past. So we'll go back from September to August to July. Let's leave it unpaid. Let's add a new product. What did she buy? She bought a skimmer. She actually bought 2 of them. Press tab. We're going to give her another thing. 1 of those. And then I'm just going to advance to the next record. And so now we've just created an invoice for another customer. We can close this. And let's go run our overdue report. And sure enough, we have another overdue person. 1 more video to go. We're going to create a menu system that will link this all together and publish the application so that it could be used by anyone in the business, a secretary, a salesperson. And so 1 more video and we'll put the final touches on our application.